Hi everybody, so here we are. A lot of time has passed since I uploaded the last video with my face on it, so here we are. And yeah, this is probably a long video, and probably you you should have saw that, but I've seen it. But I'm reading the second book by Barack Obama and the Audacity of Hope. So let me get off the cover on it. This book. This is Obama, for those who doesn't know, and Obama, and this is the title. And I am starting to read chapter 3 of the Constitution, and I just finished some days ago to read chapter 2, which is titled Values. And I wanted to share with you 2 or 3 pages of this book, because I think they really center the target, and they seem to be just the same thoughts of mine. And anyway, let me take off. This is my business card, and I don't know why it is there, but here we are. Here Obama says, like most of my values, I learned about empathy from my mother. She disdained any kind of cruelty and thoughtlessness or abuse of power, whether it expressed itself in the form of racial prejudice or bullying the schoolyard or workers being underpaid. Whenever she saw even a hint of such a behavior in me, she would look me square in the eyes and ask, how do you think that would make you feel? But it was in my relationship with my grandfather that I think I first internalized the full meaning of empathy. Because my mother's work took her overseas, I often lived with my grandparents during my high school years, and without a father present in the house, my grandfather bore the brunt of much of my adolescent rebellion. He himself was not always easy to get along with. He was at once warm-hearted and quick to anger, and in part because his career had not been particularly successful, his feeling could also be easily bruised. By the time I was 16, we were arguing all the time, usually about me failing to abide by what I considered to be an endless series of petty and arbitrary rules, filling up the gas tank whenever I borrowed his car, say, or making sure that I rinse out the milk carton before I put it in the garbage. With a certain talent of rhetoric, as well as an absolute certainty about the merits of my own views, I found that I could generally win these arguments, in the narrow sense of leaving my grandfather flustered, angry, and sounding unreasonable. But at some point, perhaps in my senior year, such victories started to feel less satisfying. I started thinking about the struggles and disappointments he had seen in his life. I started to appreciate his need to feel respected in his own home. I realized that abiding by his rules would cost me a little, but to him it would mean a lot. I recognized that sometimes he really did have a point, and that he insisted on getting my own way all the time without regard to his feelings or needs. I was in some way diminishing myself. There's nothing extraordinary about such an awakening, of course. In one form or another, it is what we all must go through if we are to grow up. And yet I found myself returning again and again to my mother's simple principle. How would that make you feel? As a guidepost for my politics. It's not a question we ask ourselves enough, I think. As a country, we seem to be suffering from an empathy deficit. We wouldn't tolerate scholars that don't teach, that are chronically underfunded and understaffed and underinspired if we thought that the children in them were like our children. It's hard to imagine the CEO of a company giving himself a multi-million bonus while cutting healthcare coverage to his workers if he thought they were in some sense his equals. And it's safe to assume that those in power will think longer and harder about launching a war if they envision their own sons and daughters in harm's way. I believe a stronger sense of empathy would tilt the balance of our current politics in favor of those people who are struggling in this society. After all, if they are like us, then their struggles are our own. If we fail to help, we diminish ourselves. But but that does not mean that those who are struggling, or those of us who claim to speak for those who are struggling, are thereby freed from trying to understand the perspective of those who are better off. Black leaders need to appreciate the legitimate fears that may cause some whites to resist affirmative action. Union representatives can't afford not to understand the competitive pressure their employers might be under. I am obligated to try to see the world through George Bush's eyes, no matter how much I may disagree with him. That's what empathy does. It calls us to ask, it calls us all, yeah, repeat it. It calls us all to ask the conservative and the liberal, the powerful and the powerless, the oppressed and the oppressor. We are all shaken out of our complacency. We are all forced beyond our limited vision. No one is exempt from the call to find common ground. Of course, in the end, a sense of mutual understanding isn't enough. After all, talk is cheap. Like any value, empathy must be acted upon. When I was a community organizer back in the 80s, I would often challenge neighborhood leaders by asking them where they put their time, energy, and money. Those are true tests of what we value, and tell them, regardless of what we like to tell ourselves. If we aren't willing to pay a price for our values, if we aren't willing to make some sacrifices in order to realize them, then we should ask ourselves whether we truly believe in them at all. By this standards at least, it sometimes appears that Americans, and Europeans also, I think, in it, it sometimes appears that Americans today value nothing so much as being rich, thin, young, famous, safe, and entertained. We say we value the legacy we have the next generation, and then settle the generation with mountains of debt. We say we believe in equal opportunity, but then send adult while millions of American children languish in poverty, and I add also European children, African children, Asian children, worldwide children languish in poverty. We insist that we value family, but then structure our economy and organize our lives so that they ensure that our families get less and less of our time. And yet, a part of us knows better. We hang on to our values even if they seem at times tarnished and worn, even if, as a nation, in our own lives, we have betrayed them more often than we care to remember. What else is there to guide us? Those values are our inheritance, what make us who we are as a people. And although we recognize that they are subject to challenge, can be poked and prodded and debunked, and turned inside out by intellectual and cultural critics, then they have proven to be both surprisingly durable and surprisingly constant across classes and races and faiths and generations. We can make claims on their behalf, so long as we understand that our values must be tested against facts and experience, so long as we recall that they demand deeds and not just words. To do otherwise would be to relinquish our best selves. So, they're just 3 pages, but when I read them, I said just, oh, wow, that's perfectly my thought, that's just my thought. Nothing more, nothing less. And, phrase, the words, how do you think that would make you feel? I think it's just the best phrase, the best the best question. How would it make you feel? How do you think that would make you feel? And I think people, or but also every person, probably doesn't ask it himself enough. But the result is under our eyes is economic crisis, it's social crisis, and others, and wars and everything. So I just want to share it with you. Hope you'll have a great week, a great day. I hope everyone will try to make it better. So have a nice week. Goodbye.